Simplifiers is the podcast that cuts through the complexity of digital transformation to reveal what works. Created by Solteq, hosted by Amel Gaily, and built for anyone who believes clarity beats complexity every time.
In this episode, Amel Gaily explores AI realities and responsibilities with data scientist Gabriel dos Reis Estivalet and AI entrepreneur Mikko Alasaarela. Together, they unravel the myths around AI, share practical business cases, and reflect on how AI must stay human to deliver true value.
Welcome to Simplifiers, the podcast where we make sense of the complex world of digital business. I'm your host, Amel Gaily. Today we're diving into one of the most talked about and often misunderstood topics in the business world, artificial intelligence. AI is already shaping how we work, sell, hire, and make decisions. But it's also wrapped in hype, jargon, and massive expectations. That's why we're here, to cut through the noise and explore how AI can actually deliver business value when it's approached with simplicity, clarity, and responsibility. Joining me today are two brilliant minds. First, Gabriel dos Reis Estivalet, a data scientist at Solteq who works with organizations to turn data into smart, usable systems, not just dashboards or black boxes. Also, Mikko Alasaarela, an internationally recognized AI entrepreneur, keynote speaker, and thought leader on algorithmic influence and ethical teach. Together, we're going to unpack what real-world AI success looks like and where it often goes wrong. Let's jump in. Welcome, Gabriel.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mikko. I want to get started with both of your journeys into AI and digital. And Gabriel, let's start with you. What led you into this field? And how did you end up in Finland, working at the intersection of data, engineering, and business advisory?
So I started my career actually in law. I went to law school in my country of origin, Brazil. I worked for a couple of years, I think, in the area. And I was not entirely satisfied with how fast, or actually rather how slow, like the whole system would really work. And I decided to branch out, to expand a little bit more. So I had good intentions, as I tell my family, just to continue with law and then take on some other things more in the business side. But I eventually landed in San Francisco, in California, as well. And I think I got this big exposure to the whole new world, basically, of technology and data. And that was not really something I knew before from where I come from. And so that was about 2014, 2015. And I think since then, I have been shaping the direction of my career or my studies into this new field. And I've been working for different companies, I guess, in different industries. And now this is maybe the third country that I'm already in, hopefully to stay here, making my home country. And so I've started my career as a data analyst, moved to data scientist. And since I came to Finland, that was in the past, I think it's about 6 years ago, I've been more exposed already to things related to data engineering. So there's a big overlap in both areas, engineering and science. And more recently, since I joined Solteq, I've been continuing on that effort. And since I joined the advisory team, I think the whole team is made of different roles, different people that are trying to work together just to address these challenges that our customers really face.
You've talked a lot about simplifying data for impact, not complexity. So what does that mean in practice from your point of view?
So I think it is maybe easier, in many cases, you can come up with something very complicated and maybe overpromise in some ways on how you're going to really affect some business challenge, some specific operation or task, something that the customer is doing that maybe it's not optimal right now. And sometimes an easier solution, it should be the first one that should be explored. It doesn't necessarily mean in some cases that you're going to be jumping right away into the AI train and using that. If you can solve it a little bit simpler. So I think we shouldn't be using it just for the sake of using it, but it is, of course, one great tool that we have that can help us solve many different problems.
Well, Mikko, your career has taken you from San Francisco to Berlin, from startups to global stages. Now, what keeps you so deeply invested in AI, and particularly in ethical, responsible use of AI?
Yeah, that all started back in, I think, 2006, 2007. I was working in the game industry. I mean, of course, my background is multi-time entrepreneur, founder in various companies, also angel investor in some. And over the years, I've been around multiple different areas of technology, anything from nano optics to mobile games to blockchain to AI and so on. But the AI interest I picked in when I was living in San Francisco, and I went deep into behavioral algorithms. And behavioral algorithms were all the rage at the time because the social networking kind of like breakthrough was happening while I was there. I was hanging out with guys like Mark Zuckerberg and others, and Mark Pincus in the social gaming space, and simply by having these conversations, I figured out that these behavioral algorithms are going to be absolutely massive. Turns out that the whole game industry back in the time shifted from this kind of like having these fun snacks of time, like Rovia's Angry Birds, into like creating these algorithmic addictions with these free-to-play games. And all of these algorithmic addictions were based on behavior shaping, and there was a lot of algorithmic development in that field. I felt that the whole game industry was going to the wrong direction from my perspective, so I left the industry and focused on ethical use of those behavioral algorithms for the good of the humanity. And now that we look at how the social networking and gaming like eventually ended up evolving, we have a very potent, very powerful algorithms that are shaping millions and millions and billions of people's behavior on a daily basis. And now we have polarized society, a lot of mental health problems for kids, and so on. There's a lot of trouble that we caused with these models. And I took it to my heart to be the kind of like the counterforce to that.
Really, really interesting. Would you say that's even your mission?
That's been my mission since I decided to go this way. So I've been working in the space of AI like for way more than 15 years because of this. And so I was there before all this ChatGPT hype came in. I built my first AI-powered chatbot in 2014. So way before like these new things came in. And so, been there, done that. So stick around.
Good. We want to hear more about that. Well, I want to start with where AI goes wrong. Maybe it's a Finnish way to start, approaching from the problems first. But AI is everywhere. But so are failed pilots, inflated expectations, and also very expensive, what we could call learning experiences. Mikko, you've talked a lot about the imminent arrival of AGI, so artificial general intelligence. What does it mean for us and our societies?
Yeah, so both Sam Altman and Dario Amodei, who are kind of like the two most famous entrepreneurs in the field of AI, have said that we will have AGI by the beginning of 2027. So that's kind of 19 months away.
Yeah.
And if you look at it from this perspective, it's almost like, from my perspective, it's like if somebody saying, Jesus is coming, are you ready? Because the fundamental shift from AGI is so insane to our societies. There was discussion already in the AI circles that when we start approaching AGI, it's likely that we will start to see this kind of takeoff effect where everything starts going vertical, and it feels like you are in a rocket ship. And that has been my feeling for the past year, that everything has been changing so fast and accelerating so fast that I think it even looks like that AGI is imminent from the perspective of how the markets and how the technology development has been behaving. And I don't think our societies are ready. I don't think people are ready. And this massive change with unexpected population on the other side is dangerous. And there's a lot of trouble that we can cause to ourselves if we are not prepared.
Yeah.
So as I said, like I'm preparing like Jesus is coming and trying to be ready for that.
Yeah, but it's not always easy. And this is such a big radical change in the way we do everything, basically, and how people work, interact, and take on their daily lives, that it's a scary time in many ways. And even for people like working in the field, it can feel a little bit overwhelming sometimes by all of these new developments and things coming out in different areas, in different use cases, different technologies. The moment you start using ChatGPT or something similar, that you see like, wow, this can do great things. And then all of a sudden you have a new model coming up for new competitor, a new company or something like that. So it's really, really speeding it up.
And also at the same time, like I'm discussing with some of the software leaders in the Finnish companies, and at the same time I'm seeing, because I'm working with some of the world leading AI hackers and pushing the boundaries of what can be done with AI, and that's why I see the velocity so closely. I've seen like ChatGPT, for example, price performance ratio increased by 150 times in the span of beginning of 2023 and then mid 2024, and ever since it's been about 10x. So now we are looking at this like 10x performance improvements, like price performance ratio improvement in AI happening on a yearly basis at the current velocity. That's way faster than Moore's law. And at the same time, I discuss with my peers in the software industry in Finland. They say that between 4 and 10% of their projects for the past 2 years have been AI related. And I'm like, this is not right. Like I thought that it would be the other way around. Like this kind of change, like you should have like 95% of your projects in AI because nothing else matters at this phase.
It's true. Let's talk about kind of company levels.
Yeah.
Gabriel, what do companies typically get wrong when they start their AI journey?
Well, I guess one of the things is trying to skip some steps. So basically, you are going to use all of these systems. They require data. They require some sort of structure already in place for this to work. So if you don't have, let's say, data centralized, accessible, and in a good quality, good shape that can be used, then it becomes a little bit harder to then develop many other use cases on top of that. So that foundation is really necessary. And some companies might have this already spread in silos, which is not really ideal for this case. And in other cases as well, we see that there is this drive, okay, there is some interest in the business side, but then business is not so as involved as they should be in sort of driving this initiative. So it becomes then somewhat of a technical work, so the work of the data team or something like that, that is working on these algorithms, and that can have a disconnect, because these models, all of these tools, they need to impact something in our world, in our physical world, our operations, our customers, the way we do things, interact with people. And it might be that the data team is focused on just, optimizing for some technical metric or something like that. Whereas, the business side would be very happy if they could, just impact many times some qualitative, measurement or something like that. So this disconnection and this need for the business to drive is also something very, very important.
Exactly. Yeah. And not to over complexify something.
No, that is true. That is true. I think simple is good, and it works in many cases. And companies, they are not yet in some circumstances at that point that they can really do many complex things or many things at the same time. So sometimes they need to take a simpler approach, and I think that works. If you can get the benefits that you are looking for with something simpler, I don't see why you should introduce that complexity, right? And at the same time, the human factor, right?
Yes.
You never forget, okay, so you're going to be impacting somebody that is doing their work, their tasks.
Exactly.
So you want to include them early, you want to include them often, and they need to know what is happening, why this is happening, how this works, have that understanding. So I think you're going to have a lot less friction and pushback into these initiatives inside a company if you include them, early.
Exactly. Speaking of humans, Mikko, do you think people are chasing AI for the wrong reasons?
Well, I mean, the AI has been used for the wrong causes for as long as I've seen in terms of the history. I think the current experience that I have is that people are starting to figure out like what AI is capable of. So a lot of the people that previously like thought that it's such a chatbot that I'm chatting with are now realizing the potential of agents, and how agents can amplify their work. And this realization has I think changed the outlook for many. So I think right now the awakening is ongoing, in my opinion. I don't think everybody is on board yet. There's too many people talking about incremental improvements, like trying to get like between 10 and 30% improvements from using ChatGPT for search or like summarization or text generation or like image generation. That's like a very low ambition level. So I think so now I'm helping companies like building AI native strategies and AI native organizations. The ambition level is usually set above 3x. So they are trying to do at least 3 times jump on the general productivity of the human employees by leveraging teams of agents and and leveraging these AI native approaches. So I think that's a reasonable target to put the initial target at 3x. Now we are starting to talk about like fundamental shifts that this AI is enabling us to do. In my circles, like because I hang out with some of the world leading AI hackers, a Canadian friend of mine actually shipped 10 million lines of code by himself with his agent farm last year.
Okay.
That would be like a mid-sized software development agency's worth of work from one guy.
Okay.
And he did last month 2.5 million lines of shipped code. So it's also accelerating in that regard. So I don't know, like this is like what the rocket ship looks like, in my opinion.
But you think this is sort of creating this split between those people or companies that are really jumping into the strain and the rocket ship just to go very fast versus the other ones that are just maybe hesitant or just lagging behind in taking this first step and pursuing this, or maybe not being so ambitious? So is this creating this sort of
right now the power law is extremely steep. Like a vast majority of people are not even using AI on a daily basis. They are only casually every now and then doing something with it.
Exactly.
And then you have this small percentage of people, let's say it's 10%, I don't know what the exact number right now is, that are using AI on a daily basis on the workspace. And who are seeing this kind of 10 to 30% like incremental change, like improvements on their productivity. Then you have like a very small percentage of those, let's say that's 1% of the workforce or less, who actually figured out how to use agents for their work and who are able to get to this 2 to 3x type of like a productivity boost. And then you have absolutely tiny bit of people who are pushing the boundaries on the global scale, who are in some way 10x to 1000x. Like multipliers, but you see the spread happening on the very, very edge of the power law, and it's so insanely steep that yes, I'm worried that this thing is going to be an accelerant of infinite power to infinitely small amount of people if we let this go this way. So we have to be as a society prepared for this change and figure out like how do we equitably share the benefits of AI to everybody. And that's also one of the reasons why I have taken to my impact task to build those kind of technologies, because I think like I understand this problem and and I have to contribute. I just feel like obligated to do so.
Well, I want to ask a follow-up question now. If you think of the general public, what's a myth that lives very strongly regarding AI amongst the general public who have yet to adopt the use of AI? What's something that you'd like to debunk?
Well, I mean, one thing which people don't realize is that nowadays, like this trendy thing to say that AI is going to consume all the energy on the planet. Let's say the cost performance ratio of ChatGPT went up 150 times in the span of 18 months. Now we are at the 10x trajectory. This kind of like cost benefit ratio cannot improve without the electricity consumption per token trained is going down at the same rate. Otherwise, they would be basically infinitely unprofitable with their progress, and they will get into a place where they cannot fund it anymore. So I see that the efficiency gains like on the forefront right now are so insane that it's going to mitigate a lot of the issue that is coming from the spreading, like widespread adoption of AI, which is of course driving the electricity cost up. So yes, we do have like a push to build a lot more data centers and and AI like clusters around the world, but because we are moving from like this kind of training-based AI model into inference-based model, and I would say that 98-99% of all the consumption will be inference, and the inference will be infinitely less costly over time, like it's going to go down. So I don't see that as a problem in the same way as those people who don't understand these power dynamics that are currently happening are thinking it's going to be.
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, I also see with some of the customers and this conversation, especially when you're just talking and this, more generally about it, that people are sometimes hesitant of using it. So you see the problem with the adoption that you mentioned, Mikko, and to some level they feel like a little scared that this is kind of like the boogeyman in some ways, that they're coming for our jobs, they're going to replace everybody and automate everything, and everybody will be out of their jobs, and this will really impact and disrupt the way we live, basically, right? But yes, there are some changes that are coming, of course, and we see that some roles might be not so much in demand anymore, but there are also the other side of the equation here. So some doors close, some other doors really open, and you have new roles coming up. And I think in this area, as soon as when I started, more or less, we had this image of, okay, the data scientist. So this guy, he needs to do everything: the analysis, building the model, making everything operational, and going from A to Z in many ways. But now you see that as this becomes more common, more widespread, there are different roles emerging. Even if you just look into this area, so we have machine learning engineers, you have AI engineers now. More recently, you have things related to Gen AI as well. So even prompt engineers and things like that are coming up. So I think there's the two sides of it, and we shouldn't really be so scared about this. That's going to really take everything away from us in this sense. I think it's going to give a lot more than it's going to take away. But we need to change the mindset a little bit, right? Just to be more continuous learning.
Yeah, I'll take a little bit of a counter opinion on this. So I think a lot of the worries are warranted. Because what's happening is that we are actually in a vertical trajectory with the evolution of AI right now. And human evolution is not vertical. It's basically almost stagnant. I would say that for the past 20, 30 years, the average IQ of humans have actually gone down a bit. And now we have this vertical trajectory hitting the human IQ trajectory. So that means that yes, we are going to hit AGI, but we are hitting the artificial super intelligence with maybe 1000x more potent, or 1,000,000x, or even we don't even know where the limit is. So if you have 1,000 times more performant AI than humans, what's the use of humans for any labor? I mean, that's what I'm saying. We are probably heading towards post-labor society, and we have to also plan for that. That's a scenario that we have to take into account.
That is true. And of course, if you let things go, and there is this possibility, it is true. I mean, you have to agree that this can start taking over more and more. But I think because of the need that people are somewhat a little bit slow to adapt, at some point we need that as a society.
That doesn't help them actually in any way. If you are in the forefront of AI, you are going to reap all the benefits of this transition. So for any human that is listening to this podcast, I would say that get yourself in the forefront, because you are not going to lose with that approach.
That's true, but it is a steep curve to get there. And and if everybody is completely replaceable at the end of the day, I mean, who is going to buy the products that other companies, big companies, sell or using those things? So it can be a little bit tricky to conciliate that. Exactly. And I don't think nobody really knows how it's going to get.
That's true. But let's come down or backwards a little bit. It's a really interesting discussion. I think it's something that is very interesting for listeners to bear in mind as well. But I want to talk about good AI. Okay. Good AI, and now from the perspective of our listeners. So what does a good AI look like? And Gabriel, can you share a success story or a case where AI made a measurable difference? Not because it was flashy, but because it was smart and it was simple.
Okay. Yes. So smart and simple. Okay. So we had one customer that we're building this portal for them, for their end customers to really be able to access their information, their transactions and services that they have purchased, products and things like that. All of these interactions in one place. Now, nowadays things are all digital, so all of these things most of the times happen in the digital world. So that is fine. That is much easier to handle in terms of setting all of the information, making it available into the portal in this scenario. But looking back in history, they had this sort of paper trail of different things that happened before, and all of that needed to be, of course, imported into this new portal, so customers could really see everything. So it's a very simple thing. It's not the rocket ship idea that we've been speaking about, but it is something that, in one way, they had the option, of course, into doing this manually. It's not really feasible if you have a big amount of document and documentation to do it. You could build a program, perhaps not even using AI to do it, but you have some complexities, like, you know, some of those forms and things were handwritten, so which makes it a little bit difficult to do it. Yeah. And I think this AI was the solution in the end was a vision model that would just capture, read all of those documents, and just capture and extract that information. Mm-hmm. So it was something simple. It's something that nowadays you don't require a big project to do it. It's something you can get up to speed in a few hours, and having these results already, it works with a good amount of accuracy, and then it makes it viable for the company. Exactly. So you don't have to worry and plan too much to do it. It's like one small step. It's something simple, and it's not maybe not that sexy, but it's a use case that you see that has an impact in the real world.
Exactly. It's a focused use case in a way. Mikko, you often emphasize human-centered AI. Now, what does that look like in a business setting? We want to hear an example about where ethics and business value goes hand in hand.
Yeah, so because we live in the world where algorithmic behavior shaping is all over the place, and there's an effort by lots of different players to exercise some kind of mind control on us, to shape our decisions and shape our opinions, and and so on. There are like multiple ways you can direct that for good. Like, for example, you can create algorithmic incentives for people to showcase better behavior. We haven't really applied them in a large scale, but there are some examples of where we have. So let's take for example, using algorithms to allow people to basically lead healthier lives. Oura is a great example from Finland. Like, they take lots of different data points from different data sets, apply algorithmic models on basically synthesizing out of this extremely complex set of different types of biomarkers and other information into one simple, like how well you slept, like a charter. And that has a big impact on people's lives, because now that they measure their sleep and they make sure that they sleep better, that has a positive impact on lots of people's lives. And I think from that perspective, I actually had a discussion with Petteri Lahtela about this a long time ago. So he said he doesn't even see Oura as a hardware company or like this kind of ring company, but he sees them as a healthy algorithm company. So algorithmic models to help people lead healthier lives. And I think that makes a lot of sense to me as an example. But there are lots and lots of potential. Like, I personally would love to see the regulatory frameworks to basically adapt to the age of AI and let people exercise like AI algorithms for all kinds of like doctor use cases and healthcare use cases, because we already have a technology that is as good as doctors. We're just regulatory blocking it from being applied so that the doctors can make their money. But in my opinion, like a sick kid is much more important for me to heal than doctors buying a new car or something like this. So if I have to make a choice, it's a very easy choice for me. But the regulators are currently supporting those who are lobbying the best, like in this, and that's a bigger problem in the United States than it is in Europe, but it still is a problem in a lot of places.
Well, many of the benefits of well-implemented AI have already been discussed, but I'd like to hear from both of you, from your point of views, what are some of the most underrated benefits?
Well, I think, I like to look at things in a positive way, and I like that human factor of it. So you have, of course, you can look at it from the perspective after this is in operation, like whatever system you're working on, it's in operation, it's interacting with their customers or the users. But also during that implementation phase and that discovery, I think, you gotta have the business side working together with the technical side. And I think they complement each other. So of course, the users as well. So there's a dynamic going on there. And I like to think that these initiatives, they tend to sort of bring people together here. And in past projects that I've been working on, you get to know a little bit more of other areas, of other colleagues, and when looking into our customers, so in other industries as well, and how they work. And I think this is kind of a nice way to look at it. So you're building bridges somehow into this. If of course it's done well, right? So when you have that communication and that collaboration.
Exactly. What do you think, Mikko? Underrated benefits.
Yeah, so one of the things that people maybe didn't pay attention to when the large language models were basically flourishing and started becoming part of our daily lives, we didn't realize that one of the benefits of having a language model is to be able to translate across languages, and that enabled the language models to speak almost instantly to all the languages in the world. So you can use your language model in Finnish, or you can use it in Hindi, or whatever languages you want. And then they are still be able to respond to you and and serve you in your own language. And it may feel like something that you expect, but the fact that it was actually part of the model's intrinsic network of nodes that enabled that to happen at the same time as the training was done, I think it's fascinating and pretty much underrated in my opinion.
Yeah. Let's talk more about kind of the cultural and psychological side of all of this, and something that you've both said now in different ways is that kind of tech is never the bottleneck. So what is?
Can I take?
You go, please.
So when I work with company leaderships or government organization leaderships and we have in this discussion on how to build an AI native organization. The concern in that kind of discussion is that what kind of things have moved beyond human clock speed or the human behavior patterns, and when you see that there's a lot of things in the world where our expectations have way surpassed human reaction times. For example, customer service or some other places that in those cases because we already have instant replies to everything, there's no way that the human customer service agent can ever satisfy you anymore because our expectation is faster than the human reaction time. But when you look at it from the organizational perspective, we need to start redesigning our organization so that those things that require faster than human response speeds into AI native models, and then put humans in place where these kind of things are not expected of them, because we are better at this kind of slower and more broader kind of common sense type of applications. So that also will change a lot of the thinking on the company side, because you're not anymore thinking that what kind of tools can this person use or that person use. You are thinking of what kind of roles in these organizations are good for humans and what kind of roles are good for agents.
Yeah, so there is this trend of shaping the way we do things, and just of course organizations and people themselves, they have to point their careers and their interest into this to these other areas where they see that they still have strength, right? There's always some room for human touch and for this empathy, and depending on the area and then on the service and situation, I think, well, I don't know, Mikko, if you agree, but I mean, AI, it's not nearly close to figuring it out, the emotional side in this part here.
Oh, I disagree completely. I applied emotionally intelligent algorithms already early. I actually talked about emotionally intelligent AIs early in my career when I was doing this behavioral algorithmic thing. And I was speaking in podcasts and even some stages about emotionally intelligent AIs. And the reason was that I changed my mind. I had this opinion back in 2010, 11, that when AI takes over the rational side of things, that the emotional side will stay with humans. The emotional intelligence is the human thing. And then I found out that humans' emotional intelligence is so low on average that basically AI can easily beat it with almost no effort at all. And I applied some algorithms myself to prove it. I actually run an experiment across groups of hundreds of thousands of people, both in social media and outside it, in different circumstances, because I wanted to see how it works. And I realized that humans are so easy to manipulate online that it's almost beyond belief, in this regard. So I lost my kind of hope for human ability of having actually a reasonable emotional intelligence. But there's still some points to the humanity side of things that we have to take into consideration. So for example, for us, like it's a satisfying experience to sit next to other humans and having an exchange and conversations. So that act in itself like goes beyond like the fact that whether you have or I have emotional intelligence or not, it's still valuable. But yeah,
it is difficult. I mean, even if I think we were having this conversation earlier. So yes, AI can generate music or art or something like that, but it's much more difficult to imagine, I suppose, that well, at least for me here, that you would be following. Okay, I'm following this model as like if this was a rock star or something like that, then it's really producing the music, even though the music might be enjoyable, but you're gonna be missing that connection, to the artist, to somebody that's doing that creative work here.
Okay, let's actually put this in perspective with some numbers here.
Okay.
So beginning of last year, 2024, 57% of the content in the internet was AI generated. Okay. This year, it's somewhere beyond 70%. Like beginning of next year, it's more than 90% at the current rate. At the same time, the bot traffic on the internet exceeded human traffic last July 2024. That was the moment when out of global traffic, more traffic is bot traffic than human traffic. In Western Europe, like for example, in Ireland, it was already 75% back then. And in Germany it was 67%. Like right now, the most of the Western hemisphere is beyond 70% in bot traffic. So I don't even know if I can recommend you to put together a human website, because what's the point? Like, I mean, there's bots visiting your site. And I have some anecdotes of also like optimizing for bots from that angle. And now with that in place, also the social media has gone that way. In October last year, we hit the threshold that more than 50% of influencer content on LinkedIn is AI generated. So if you go and like some LinkedIn post, you are likely basically being manipulated by bots. I mean, which have human faces, of course, because people are applying their own bots. So how do you know? Like, I mean, that's my worry. I think WhatsApp currently is the best social network on the planet because it's a place where there are no bots. Like you just hang out with your friends.
Yeah. I want to take the conversation back to the organizational level and back to kind of the human factor. I still want to stay on that because it's crucial. Now, if we think of our listeners and they're thinking about how could we, or probably not how should we, because that's a given and that's already been underlined, but how could we better implement AI? Now, trust is obviously a big issue, but I'd like to hear some maybe positive anecdotes from both of you on regarding what's the best way to build some confidence in AI systems across an organization.
Well, I guess transparency is something important. In some cases, whenever I had a chance, I would already upfront and show some actual failure cases when it could actually go wrong. Yeah. Because it's important for the other side, for the companies, for the business, whoever is watching and trying to understand that if this is a suitable use case or not, to see where it can fail as well. Because it can fail. It's not a perfect, flawless system. Exactly. Maybe we'll get there at some point. Hopefully we will. It will be very helpful if we can trust this. Many things can be really, really done better. But still, there are some kinks and a few things that some scenarios that are just not going to really work. And transparency is something very good. So when people see that and people understand as well how it works and some sort of limitations, then they are more likely to really try to embrace this kind of thing. So being upfront this way, I think it builds trust with the customer that, okay, this is something we can do, and these edge cases here might be more difficult. So we need to pay attention to those two cases. I think it sets a good level of expectations here between, in this conversation.
Interesting.
I think that's an important thing.
Yeah. Anything to add?
I think like this transparency also applies to the models themselves, because we are spending more and more time of our daily lives with models. And the models are actually affecting our thinking and our worldviews and all the other things. So we cannot ignore the fact that they are also shaping who we are. So now having open source models where you can actually validate and prove like how these models behave I think is important for the humanity, especially important for Europe to basically have some kind of digital sovereignty in that field. So I'm really hoping that we will have some leading edge like open source models to power all of those applications and agents that we have out there. and that's a big part of the trust also, like in this regard.
And where do people, be they users, customers, employees, where do they fit into responsible AI design?
Well, I think the users, the people that are driving this, I guess it is, I like to see it as a matter of really being, of course, on the same level on transparency, in communicating this, in engaging everybody often and quickly, having this feedback so you can sort of build this thing together, ship it together, right? So you're going to have one objective, and you want to be able to ensure that you just don't come out with something that is fancy or nice just because it is AI powered somehow, right? So you want to be able to do to really impact that outcome that really began the whole initiative, right?
What was the point in the first place? Yeah.
Yeah, really, yeah, the point. So we cannot miss the target, I suppose, right? And yes, you just wanna set that these things, put everybody on the same level, and then I guess engage everyone here. So I think people come out, depending on their role, they're gonna have, of course, different perspectives. And when everybody is sort of involved, I think it's, helps you see certain things that you might have missed, if you just work in silos or separately.
What do you think?
So I think one of the interesting road changes that we will probably see when we are moving towards this kind of AI native operational models is that one, because we already have models that are more intelligent than most highly qualified professionals. That the skills that are actually making you valuable may shift from being an expert on some law or like being a doctor or like a lawyer or like accountant or some other like highly qualified expert, like to more human qualities in you, because those kind of things are easy to replicate with AI. Like I can copy like a lawyer's work like with AI in no time. I can do those things. I mean, of course, regulation is slowing it down a bit, but I do think that those qualities that make us uniquely human are going to be more valuable. And I think that's good because we have undervalued these kind of human qualities. For example, nurses. I think we have underpaid nurses like for so long that it's even embarrassing in my opinion. But if you think about what's the role of nurses in this healing process, it's very, very important, the human quality that they produce. And I think that should be more valued. And I think it will probably will because of this AI replacing the intellectual side of things in some of these areas.
Yeah, and many trends are pointing to this let's say emergence or just of soft skills, basically. So people are valuing, companies are valuing CEOs and then just expressing this.
Yeah. Now, as we have to begin to wrap up, I want to talk about the future outlook and ask for a little bit of practical advice for our listeners as well. So looking ahead, I want to hear from both of you. What are the most important AI trends business leaders should be watching? And not just technically, but also strategically.
Well, these tools are getting better and better. I think people tend to disagree in many things, but I guess one thing that they may agree is that this is sort of here to stay, this wave. So this is not going away, I guess, at this point. And these models, these tools, they're getting better and better. Now we are talking about agents to do many of these things, many of the workflows, and things that some people are already seeing or beginning to see it, and maybe even some things that we can't really imagine at this point, right? So as the technology improves, it unlocks new use cases, new possibilities, new things you can do. So I think that's only going to get better, and it's getting more pervasive. So it's already a big part of our lives, whether we see it or not, or even realize. So we are using smartphones all the time, and pretty much most apps that you might use here will have some sort of AI built into it. So I think companies are at some point in different levels of maturity here. Some are really, really upfront there and already driving these new things and pushing the boundaries. But many other ones are in different steps. So along the way here, even to the bottom where they don't have really those foundations really settled yet. So the data and everything. So I guess regardless of where you are, I think you should, if you're at the beginning, you should start looking into those initiatives already, because really things are moving really, really fast. And it might be dangerous to just wait.
Yeah, I mean, there has been of course, multiple technological waves during our lifetimes already. But I don't think I've ever seen a technological wave that is so obvious than this one is. Like if you look at metaverse or blockchain, it wasn't that clear that whether it's gonna. I mean, it could have been transformative if it went through, but nobody was obviously sure that this is going to be the next thing, and there was this debate back and forth. With AI agents, I haven't found a single person who wouldn't agree that the agents are going to play a massive role in 2030. So it's literally a trend that is easy to predict, that you don't have to be any kind of clever guy and trying to be prescient over others. Simply make that bet. Jump into the agent bandwagon, because that bandwagon is so obvious and so clear. So I think that's something that if you are ignoring agents, you are literally ignoring your own future.
Second to last question. I want to hear both sides of the coin. What firstly excites you most? We've heard quite a bit about it, but what excites you most? And then the other side, what concerns you?
Okay. I think, well, I'm a positive person, so let's start with what excites me most, I guess. I think in the new uses, and now as these things are becoming better and better, I guess everything that we can do now that maybe even a couple of years ago weren't really feasible to a level that we would be satisfied with. Now they are just much better in just a matter of a few months. So things are moving really fast, and I think this has so much potential to many different areas. So, for example, I think a couple of years later, before we were using these language models, and of course they worked really well in English, and everybody was really, wow, this is something. But if you change the language, you started seeing, okay, they still work. This was a couple of years ago, but sometimes it didn't sound very natural, or you made a few mistakes or things like that here. I think nowadays it's hard to find these sorts of problems now anymore. They are really good to do that. And I think personally, at least, I'm using this a lot. I mean, at work, but also in my own life, even to study Finnish, for example. Yeah. I think this is a good use case, and it's something, a little thing that I'm doing on the side. And I see that it really works, and it gives me as a tutor, so you can have this one-on-one interaction just with using the system, which you can do it at your home, something like that. So this really excites me. And I think on the bad side,
concerns.
Yeah, on the bad side, I think I have to agree with something that you mentioned before, Mikko. It's this sort of algorithms that tend to amplify things, just looking purely on some metrics that may be misguided. You can put it this way, right? So just having more clicks, more impressions, this creates some sort of pattern and behavior in all of us, and it's affecting, and I think we're beginning to understand the level of the problem here. So there are some studies, some things already showing, of course, in the past few years, but nowadays you're seeing, okay, I think smartphones have been banned here in schools and in other countries around the world, because they're seeing, okay, the impact that they're having in the young people, right? But of course, it impacts all of us. I think I don't like to admit, but my screen time in my own phone, it's maybe a little bit too high than I would like to say. But I have 2 kids, and I don't want to see them into this loophole, basically, into this and this going down this path. I think this is not something anybody wants.
Easily relatable, definitely.
Yeah. So in my case, if I look this AGI as a thing that is kind of imminent, so it has 2 sides to it. So on the other side, it enables us to provide everybody a dignified life in this world with no worries about anything, because the technology can solve practically almost all of our problems. So that's what the technology can do. But I'm worried about the human side of things, in the sense that we are not figuring out how to manage that in a way that it doesn't cause trouble to vast majority of the humanity. Because if we go down the path that some few individuals can own everything that is going on with the AI, that's going to be extremely bad for the humanity in every possible way I can imagine. On the other side, if the AIs that we use, we are not building this like, as I said, the structures of human dignity. In my opinion, like the Nordic welfare state being one of them. If you don't build those structures, we at the same time exist in a world where technology makes it possible to solve all of our problems. And on the other side, we are miserable and struggling. And I don't think these two things can or should exist together. They can exist together, but they shouldn't exist. And we need to figure out the human side of things to a point that we are able to create new societal contracts and and a new way of collaborating where we can share this good that this technology enables with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in our hands.
Yeah. Okay, final question.
Sure.
It's so easy to feel overwhelmed by AI. So if someone's listening and they're feeling overwhelmed, what is the one piece of advice that you'd give them?
Oh, that's easy for me. At the beginning of this year, I started taking way more work than ever before. Like because I can. I realized that AI is scaling myself to maybe tens or maybe even hundreds of people's worth of work. And I started taking a lot of things on myself. My wife was super worried that you're going to burn yourself out. This is not even funny. Like she was worried. Okay. I said, chill. I know what I'm doing here. Over the spring, she's been basically telling me, are you even working? Like, why are you so relaxed? You're basically always seem like you have a lot of free time and you hang out with your friends and then you're still getting all these projects done. And I said, that's exactly what AI does for me because I can delegate all of my work. I'm basically a CTO to a farm of agents that does the work for me. So now I can get insane amount of work done and myself being chilled and relaxed. So that's but when you say overwhelmed, you don't have to be. Get the agents to do the work for you and you will be more chill than ever, from that perspective.
All right.
What's your advice?
Well, there are companies and people in different points of this journey, this maturity level, right? So I think if you are more at the beginning, perhaps, and you're having these feelings of overwhelm at some point, you just try to focus on the business problem, the business value that you can have. So this is the first thing, should guide your initiatives afterwards. And if you're at the beginning, start small. It's fine, but start. But look into it, do something. At some point, hopefully you're gonna gain some momentum and you're gonna, get in the train and keep going forward. And I guess because this is all here to stay, we have to embrace the change.
Thank you, both of you. It's been inspiring, honest, and a refreshing conversation about AI. Thank you both for not just bringing your expertise, but also really your heart and clarity to this conversation. Now, if you're listening and wondering how to move forward with AI in your business, here's your takeaway. Start small, stay clear, focus on value, and don't forget the human side. This was Simplifiers, brought to you by Solteq. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a colleague, follow the show, and stay tuned for the next one. Next up, we're going to be diving into the world of transformation failures and why so many change programs miss the mark. Until then, keep simplifying your digital world.
Thanks for listening. To learn more about Solteq and how they help simplify digital transformation, visit their website, www.solteq.com. Simplifiers is produced in partnership with Solteq by Here Media.